one too. Yeah,
How do
yeah.
I sound? Okay, I wouldn't know.
You sound great. I would know headphones too.
Cool.
All right. This will be a quick one. First of all, we painted a little bit in here.
Yeah, how does it look? Don't look too close.
I mean, yeah, it looks good from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I think we did a great job. Mainly you, but awesome job.
No, we did. Both of us did a really good job. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about Game of Thrones.
Sure, we're only about 8 years late, but let's do it.
We're 8 years late, so spoiler alerts, but I mean, where you been? But we finished it today. I finished it for the first time. You were rewatching.
It's true.
What are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts? Yeah, I don't know. I got a little like anxious and tired at the last battles. Like they just were really rough, but I know that's the point. It's sort of like you just give up hope. How could they win? And then the tides change. So it's cool, but yeah, happy to put a pin in it. Happy to wrap it up with a bow, I should say.
Yeah. Like people always say like it gets worse at the end. They got ahead of the book, so the TV writers took over the story. So I was kind of watching for that like shift, and it felt like in that. I mean, when did it really kick in? The battle. I mean, Daenerys coming to save them, like when they're stuck in the snow. The whole idea to go kidnap the dead guy. That I feel like was where it lost me. Where
Kidnap,
it's like, yeah, they're like, Cersei will never believe that this is a threat, so we have to go all the way to the north of the wall, capture one of these fucking demons from this 20,000 person army, whatever, and bring it back and show that's our only way. And like that already felt kind of goofy. Then while doing it, they get stuck. Cersei has to a guy has to run back to the wall, send a raven. It's got to get to Cersei, who's not even in Westeros. She's like off the continent still. She hadn't like invaded yet. And she just gets on her dragon and comes and saves the day. That's where that's where it fell for me.
Yeah, I mean, we had some qualms, but
We started having qualms. But for most of the show, very
no
few qualms.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I don't know what that show does so well is makes everybody
Bless you.
excuse me. Everybody's both lovable and hateable at times,
Yeah.
you know? And I think at the end characters were kind of simplified, right? Like Cersei was just like back to being evil and easy to hate and like
Right.
you know, it became like a little bit less nuanced in the way end as they kind of like buttoned everything up. But I think
agree.
that happens a lot. You know, there's a lot of loose ends to kind of tie up and all that. But
Yeah, and it's hard to bring something that crazy to like an end.
yeah, a lot going on.
So,
And I'll give it's not a very predictable ending. Like even watching it again for a second time, I'm like, all right, so Jon's going to take over now. Like here comes Jon, and he doesn't come. He's not the king.
yeah.
So I don't know. I think kudos to them for not just doing all the tropes all the time. Like it was really unique, and I think they did a great job.
Yeah, I wonder,
All in all.
you would think the author would at least tell them, I assume, he was like, okay, look, here's at least where it's going. Like, Jon's eventually going to kill Daenerys because she, like, goes crazy and murders all these innocent people. And then Jon's right? Did he at least lay that out? Or did they just say, like, we're not even going to ask you, we're just going to do our own thing? Like, I wonder how that went. A lot of research now.
I could not tell you.
Yeah. Because I would assume. But yeah, I liked him killing Daenerys. Like, cool. I liked the dragon actually burning the throne. You know, like that's the real enemy here is just
that was a cool moment.
The greed for the throne.
Like he lost his mom over this
Yeah.
bullshit.
And I thought that was nice and symbolic.
I liked that. And like, again, talk about predictability. You would think that he would kill Jon for killing his mom.
Right. And I was ready for him to kill Jon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was ready too.
I guess I would have liked to see and maybe they didn't have time, but Jon turns on Daenerys and now Jon's army has to fight Daenerys's army. and then, so, you know,
Not in one episode.
right. It's a lot, but it was only a 6-episode finale or
I would
final
have
season.
thought John would be more like what I think would have been truer to his character is him like trying to make it work with her on behalf of everybody, to be that voice of reason, you know, instead of just automatically assuming the worst from her, killing her.
Yeah, killing her even felt a little
Because
random.
I think it was though when she was listening to him talk, or when he was listening to her, and he's just like, well, they don't get to decide, they have no choice. He's a big pro-choice guy, that
He's
Jon
pro-choice.
Snow.
Yeah.
So I think that was the point where he knew there would never be any reasoning with her, and
But he
to
had
go.
no idea like what was going to happen after that. Like, you know,
It's true.
there was no like, I'll kill Daenerys and then like,
No
we know
plan.
the good government that's going to come. He created this very dangerous power
Sure.
vacuum by doing that.
That's why it feels a little bit questionable. He's such a logical person. But again, yeah, I don't know. It didn't quite make sense because logically, maybe she has to get removed, but then emotionally, he still loves her. So it was a weird, abrupt kind of way to resolve that, I think.
But overall, really good show.
For sure.
And like, everybody was right the whole time that I should have
Turns
watched
out.
it. You know, yeah, it turns out you guys are right. Great show. And there's some things the show did so well. Like you said, like, the bad people are kind of good people are kind of bad. I was talking with a friend who said, like, the guy who wrote Lord of the Rings was more of just like, there's good and there's evil in the world. And Lord of the Rings is a lot like that. The evil is just evil. The good is like pure and good. But the writer of Game of Thrones is more of a like gray area. And I prefer that. Lord of the Rings is dope, though. Maybe better than Game of Thrones, actually. But other things they did well is like the little plants that they did, like Jon's a bastard, and like Ned Stark's wife is still mad at him for having this affair, and like you see, and you know that felt kind of out of character. Like this noble, pure, principled Ned Stark had an affair one time, and like has a bastard, and like is raising the kid. Like, okay, he's raising the kid because that's his principles. But yeah, it kind of felt like something was missing, and then it ended up being that. Like it wasn't his kid and he was lying to protect him. Pretty awesome. It'd be cool to rewatch. We should start over. Just because like all the stuff with Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark, like in the beginning talking about Ned Stark's sister and all this, like Ned Stark knew so much more at that time. And I wonder, I mean, the writers would have known that. So yeah, I wonder like what sort of like Easter eggs there are when you rewatch it with like the knowledge of it. But then Hodor, like that's shit like cool that. Moment. I loved that, you know, that like this character, he shows up what, season 1, season 2, Hodor? At least 2.
Yeah, early on.
Yeah.
After, because I mean, Bran's accident's what, season 1?
Yeah, it's the first episode.
That's the first episode?
Bran's accident.
See, how do you remember this? I've watched it twice and I'm asking you.
I know that because that was all I had seen at first. All I saw was the very first episode. Me and Charlie watched it and we were like, whatever. We just didn't feel like continuing. Forget it. And then, which is not a Charlie impression or anything I said, but, and then we all watched the finale together, which was a big night for us. And so I had only seen the very first episode and the very last episode, which was funny to me because it was like I watched the kid fall off a roof and then become the king. Like that's the story I saw, you know?
A lot happens to get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cool, that idea of like everything happens for a reason, sort of the butterfly effect, right? Is that what the butterfly effect is? That no matter what, you're going to end up...
future and
What's
past,
the butterfly effect?
The butterfly effect is that a butterfly flapping its wings in India could cause a storm in Tennessee. Like that's I think that's...
So that's not what I mean.
Well, no, that's not what you mean in terms of Game of Thrones.
Right.
Game of Thrones is more like time is non-linear and like the past and the future and the present is actually all like a constantly existing thing. It's like fate and destiny exists in that world of Game of Thrones. So like Hodor, he grew up saying Hodor, Hodor, because when he was a kid, the like dimensions got and he says hold the door, you know, like, so time is like not really existing.
Right. Like
sort
his
of.
like stroke moment in childhood that led him to be nonverbal was ultimately from something that would happen in the future.
Right. Him overhearing something from the future.
Or yeah, whatever.
Or being attacked. Yeah, like
However,
whatever that is.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Just so many. And then there was that one character with the one eyeball who keeps coming back to life. And he's like, you know, why do I keep coming back to life? People are wondering, the hound's on his case about it. And he's like, don't you think I ask myself that all the time? Mm-hmm. And then it turns out he had to protect Arya. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was cool to see. I felt like it was very thoughtful and intentional.
But
most of the time.
Well, I would have liked, like, if Hodor, if that eye patch guy, people's names were really hard to keep track of.
It's a lot.
The whole first season, like, who's this, like,
you never know who's
I don't know
important.
Whose name? Yeah,
and everybody, the guys you do think you need to know are fucking getting beheaded left and right. Sure. So it's like, I'm not going to get attached.
Right, you don't really get attached.
Yeah,
but
no.
anyway, you know, like if
Oh
no, the marigold.
No.
Pause. If Hodor,
Have to work that out.
if Hodor has this destiny and everybody's like wrapped up in fate, that means like literally everybody, everything, every single person is doing, whether they realize it or not, is like part of some greater purpose and story. And I wish like that would have applied to, in the end, that applies to everybody.
Yeah.
Tyrion, Daenerys, like if that's the world, then that's the world. And so like I wish
to get like crumbs of everybody.
Single thing would have like been like, holy shit, like that was the whole reason of all of it, you know? And they hinted at that a little, and it's not easy to do or to show. And like it probably would have gotten annoying if it was like literally every character has a moment of like, oh, that's why I tripped that one time, or that's why I cut my hair. But
well, I mean, most of those moments I think are probably inconsequential, so they're not worth highlighting. But you know, Bran alludes to it at the end where Jon's like apologizing for not being there for him for something, and he's just like, you were exactly where you're supposed to be. You know, everybody did. So you kind of like, it's sort of just a little blanket statement that they apply to everybody.
Right.
But I get it. It would have been interesting to see more of that idea.
So the way ending, like Bran the Broken, which we were both like, yeah, let's call him Bran the Broken. Yeah,
let's focus on the one deficit this character has. Why not? I mean, he's got a few shortcomings, but
yeah, I mean, through the whole last season, he's just like, people look over, he's just like staring at them with like, Jesus, Bran, like, fucking,
oh my God,
you're creeping everybody out. And he's just
like,
I'm not Bran. We're like, bro.
He's a little much there at the end. But yeah, like, why not Bran the memory or Bran the
guy who can tell the fucking future, the three-eyed raven, Bran the Broken, like darn
you would think, especially
You're
Tyrion, who's gotten roasted his entire life for being a dwarf, would have more empathy and choose to highlight a strength rather than a deficit.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But him becoming king. Okay, so Bran knew the whole time then that he was going to become king. He knew the whole time Jon was going to end up back at the Night's Watch. So why does he ask Earworm, or what's that one guy's name? Grey Worm. Like he asks Grey Worm what do you want to do? You know, what do you suggest? Like, how do we find this justice? Like, Bran knows the answer. Why is he like negotiating with Grey Worm?
He had to prove to everybody else that Jon wasn't an option because of what Grey Worm felt and what he was going to command, right? Like, he knew, but they all didn't realize that Jon wasn't a contender still, you know? I bet people in that council would have voted for Jon.
Okay. Qualm nullified.
I would think.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, it's interesting, too, to have all that power and probably can't change anything without changing everything. So it's like even though he knows, he just sort of stayed mute and awkward and weird about it and withheld all that information to let it all play out.
Yeah, I mean, you can't change everything, right? You just know it, but you can't change it.
It's true.
So we're back to talking about free will and fate. And destiny.
Back to here. So what was that bad movie with Ashton Kutcher, The Butterfly Effect? Because I felt like it was, if he changed one thing, then all of the courses of his life, in every version of his life, it was impacted.
That's the gist of the butterfly. I think the original quote is like, if a butterfly flaps its wings in China, let's see. But yeah, that's like, if you went back to 3rd grade and killed a butterfly, like you and I probably wouldn't have gotten married. You know, like that, the little change in your past, like ends up having dramatic change over time.
Sure. Compounding effect.
Compounding effect. Yeah. I mean, there's a book about the compound effect. It's more of a self-help book, but you're like, shut up and please.
Shut up and give me the data. Just kidding. Don't shut up.
Okay, I just said butterfly effect origin. The butterfly effect originates from chaos theory in mathematics and physics, describing how small changes in initial conditions can lead to vastly different outcomes. The term was popularized by meteorologist Edward Lorenz in the 1960s, who discovered that tiny changes in atmospheric data could drastically alter weather models. During a presentation in 1972, he illustrated this concept by suggesting that the flap of a butterfly's wings in Brazil could theoretically set off a tornado in Texas.
Wow.
Lorenz's work showed that systems like the weather are highly sensitive to initial conditions where minute variations can exponentially impact long-term outcomes. The butterfly effect has since been widely used as a metaphor in various fields to illustrate how minor actions can lead to unforeseen large-scale consequences. Mm-hmm. So actually,
not always literally about butterflies.
No. A butterfly does not have to actually be included.
It's pouring outside.
Yeah.
It says it's going to stop raining, but I guess that butterfly died.
Someone killed that butterfly.
Someone killed that butterfly
in Brazil today.
When they were in 3rd grade, and now it's pouring out, and we have...
Today's a big day.
Today's a big day. It's not Halloween, but we are dressed to the nines, might I say.
Yeah, you're 8 now.
I'm shedding flowers. Yeah, I'm like 8.5 now.
Just to the 8.5s. So what's today?
Today is the All Souls Procession here in Tucson, which is basically, I mean, not completely a Dia de los Muertos celebration, but linked to that celebration. So yeah, your first one.
Yeah. Like, what's going to happen? There's like a big march,
It's a whole
parade.
procession or a parade. Yeah. So it'll start and then everybody gathers and people are like dressed up in really elaborate costumes. There's floats. There's like drummers and percussionists that lead the way. There's like dancers, all sorts of things. Mariachi, like kind of people, like groups of people will enter, you know, and like sign up to perform basically and perform at different spots along the way. Mm-hmm. And then you arrive at the Mercado district and there's after party. Well, there's the finale, which is where they have a bunch of performances and then they have the burning of the urn, which is really cool because you can, for like a month or more leading up to it, they'll make the urn public and you can go and like put messages and things that you're grieving or things you want to let go of, and then you have this moment where you literally watch it get raised up by a crane and set on fire.
It's pretty sick.
And so it's just a very kind of cathartic healing moment. But yeah, it's really cool. I've had some various degrees of intensities with it over the years. Like sometimes it feels really casual and light and fun, and sometimes it feels really heavy and I'm sad or whatever. And
yeah, especially if you're coming off of like a recent loss of somebody.
Yeah, it can be really crazy, but it's always powerful that way because it's just so many people there are honoring loved ones and marching, and just it's not common to have a outlet for grief in my life. Like this is kind of the only known cultural thing that I do that is sort of like, oh, here, let's talk about this. Let's hold space. So I love it. I think it's a really healthy thing to do. And it's one of those odd traditions, like kind of it's pre-Columbian, mainly in Mexico, Dia de los Muertos, but influenced by the Spanish arriving and bringing Catholicism, and sort of that fusing with the Aztec traditions led to the Day of the Dead celebrations, and just this idea that death is this inevitable part of life and like you can't have one without the other, and that our dead loved ones are still around and can connect if we're open to it.
And it's based around the fall solstice, right?
It happens to fall near it, but I don't think it is in the way that like. No, I don't think. Because it's always the first weekend of November, but.
You're saying the All Souls or Day of the Dead?
Well, I think both.
Is All Souls Procession. This is like a Tucson event that someone sort of made.
Yeah, Many Mouths, One Stomach
around...
is like the nonprofit organization that puts it together.
Uh-huh.
And they've been coordinating it in this way this is the 35th year. So, I mean, it definitely like is a public event, no doubt about it. But the way, in terms of like the finale, the production behind the finale and the after parties and things there, it's all kind of Many Mouths, One Stomach.
Got you. But it's like a Day of the Dead celebration called the All Souls Procession.
It is.
Because like people do the skeleton stuff. Like I feel like I'm at a Day of the Dead celebration.
It is, but it's not. It's designed to be like as respectful as possible. So it is. People bring a lot of different cultural traditions to it, other than the traditional like Day of the Dead kind of thing. Like some people are there celebrating. What is it? Sumain? Was that the one? That's like that is the. I should know. That's like the Irish one that Halloween was based off of. And I think that is like a fall equinox. Yeah, very autumnal thing.
Is it autumnal?
Autumnal.
Is that word I learned the other day that Christine has known for a long time. Yeah, is there like a lot of cultures do a death celebration thing around the fall solstice?
I don't know that it's
the leaves die, maybe? Like the leaves die, we'll talk about that.
The way they say it is that this is the time of the year where they believe the veil between the physical and spiritual realms is the thinnest, and so you can communicate more easily. But I don't know much. I'm not like an expert of who else is doing that around the world and when. But I think like America seems to be particularly disconnected from death, so I wouldn't be surprised if there were a lot of other examples of this.
Yeah, according to ChatGPT. The timing of Day of the Dead in the fall aligns with the harvest season, a period often associated with life cycles, renewal, and transitions in agrarian societies. Many ancient Mesoamerican cultures, including the Aztecs, structured their festivals around the agricultural calendar. During the harvest, communities would gather and celebrate not only the bounty of the earth, but also honor the spirits of deceased ancestors, believing their spirits returned to share in the offerings of the season. And there you go, folks. Samhain.
Sumain.
Samhain is a Celtic. We'll just end with this. Well, so I asked, do other cultures celebrate a death around this time also? So it says that in ancient Celtic culture, Samhain, celebrated from October 31st to November 1st, marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter. It was believed to be a time when the veil between living and the dead was thinnest, allowing spirits to cross over. Samhain traditions influenced Halloween and continue to be observed in various ways. Also in Japan, they have Obon. Although celebrated in August, in most parts of Japan, Obon is another example of honoring ancestors through festivals. People believe that the spirits of ancestors return to visit their families during Obon, and rituals including lighting lanterns, dancing, and visiting family graves. Korea, there's the Chuseok. I doubt I'm saying that right. This is a harvest festival celebrated in late September, early October. While it centers around Thanksgiving for the harvest, it also includes tradition honoring dead ancestors. There is two more. Pitru Paksha in India. In Hindu culture, Pitru Paksha is a 2-week period that typically falls in September, during which people pay homage to their ancestors. And then All Hallowtide, which is a Western Christianity. This includes Halloween, All Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day, celebrated from October 31st to November 2nd. While Halloween has evolved into a secular holiday, All Saints and All Souls Day are dedicated to honoring the saints and praying for souls of the departed, especially in Roman Catholic and Protestant tradition.
Yeah, kind of cool.
So it's all kind of in that corner of the year.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we talked about with religions in the past and like how much there is in common.
Yeah,
you know how
it's fascinating.
you know, there's a lot of ways to describe the same things, and in this particular instance, a lot of attempts to understand some unexplainable things.
Indeed.
And it is pouring. It needs to stop.
Rain.
Please stop raining.
I
never say stop raining out here, but please stop raining.
Love you. Thanks everybody for listening.
We'll give you an update. I'm so excited for you to hear those obon drummers. The Japanese drummers are traditionally out there like leading the procession. They walk with the urn.
They're representing the obon, the Japanese.
Yeah, and it's really fun. You're gonna dig this percussion.
Sick.
Yeah.
I can't wait. All right.
Good night,
everybody.
Good night to all the humans and all the spirits.
Bless.